everybody. I'd just love to thank you for joining our event this evening. We are SIGiST. We are the largest non-profit testing community in the UK. And we organise the SIGiST conference, which happens now annually. Our next one is in June. And we also do other meetings regularly, both online and in person. Our events connect leaders, thinkers on the topic of testing with practitioners, and they're an opportunity to hear about new problems, ideas and techniques. And we work hard to make our events accessible to everyone, however much experience they have in the testing field. So we actively encourage people who maybe have never spoken at a conference before to apply to speak at our conferences. Unfortunately, you've just missed the deadline for the June one, but we have other events that we run, and we actively accept applications from people who are non-members as well as members of the BCS. So, if you want to get in touch with us, please do. We'll put our address in the chat so that you can get in touch with us after this event. I'm just going to hand over to Beth now, who's going to introduce tonight's event for us.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to see so many of you here. So let's chat about what we're going to go over tonight. So in just a second, I'll be handing over to our first set of speakers for a panel discussion. We're thrilled to be joined by Imogen and Bradley from Oscar Recruitment, and we're going to be talking about testing and QA careers, what the trends are in the industry, what skills are needed and what career paths are available. And after that, we're going to have a presentation from Andy Shaw on mental health and resilience, with an opportunity afterwards to get in breakout rooms and work with people and discuss testing panel discussions. So Nicola, Imogen and Bradley, would you like to introduce yourselves to everyone on the call?
Yeah, so I'm Bradley's Imogen.
Imogen, hello.
So this is my manager. We both work for Oscar Technology. Imogen's recruited in QA for over 2 years. She's now moved to dev markets. I'm still recruiting in QA across all of the Midlands and all of the North, including Scotland and Wales as well. So quite a large area. Yeah, I'm very excited for tonight. It should be good, and excited to answer the questions.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'll kick us off with the first question then. So Imogen and Bradley, don't mind which one of you answers. Are companies struggling to find qualified candidates for specialised software testing roles? And if they are, why do you think that might be?
I think I spoke with Nicola the other day. I think what we're finding is, and that she's hiring at the moment, is a lot of candidates are applying for jobs that they're maybe not qualified for. So where companies are struggling is finding candidates who are, match what they're looking for, because they, we put an advert out, what you get 300 applications. They're struggling with that. Other than that, I mean, more, you've been doing it recently the past few months.
Yeah.
We have been finding candidates. So I don't think it's a negative at the moment. I don't think there's not, companies can't find the talent. I think it's just taking a little bit longer because there's so many people looking on the market. So many people applying for job applications. I think companies are struggling with balancing that, and that's why they'll tend to come to people like us, recruiters, who can help them balance the time. But there is people out there who are specialised and what the companies are looking for. So I don't think there's from the company side, a lack of finding the candidates. I think we're more looking at the other way around, the candidates struggling to find the jobs. Is what we're finding.
Yeah, I think as well on that point is the fact that the contract market at the moment is a lot harder than it ever has been. I'm now speaking to way more contractors on the daily who are wanting to move over to perm, which isn't an easy move, but what that's doing is making it really, really saturated just in general in terms of the candidate pool that is on offer. And again, contractors want higher wages. It's pushing the salaries up in terms of what people are looking for, and that's kind of getting around. It's not kind of a positive thing, but again, we are still finding the right candidates. It is just taking more time. I did speak to a client this week, and it was a matter of the only reason they have gone to an agency now is because they had over 700 applicants on one of their adverts, and they just could not go through that pretty much.
So yeah, so what we're saying is companies are struggling in the fact that it's taken them a long time to hire these people. just because of the amount of candidates we're finding on the market at the moment. But they are out there. So I really don't think companies are struggling at the moment to find that talent.
And when we say a sort of follow-on question, when we talk about qualified people they're looking for, I think Imogen, you said that people are going for roles that they aren't qualified for. So what kind of qualifications or skills are kind of hot on the market right now? What are the companies looking for when they're recruiting?
I mean, we're not companies, but we post adverts ourselves on behalf of our clients, and we find 300 applications for, say, quite an office-based hybrid role in Manchester, automation tester, should we say, and you're getting people down in London, and people who couldn't do that commute 2 or 3 times a day applying for it. So a lot of hiring managers' inboxes and what they've got to go through is there's just so many applications. So what we mean is people applying for jobs that they're maybe not in the right geography for, maybe don't hit what they're looking for. It's just saturating the hiring managers' kind of inboxes. And I think when you do that, you miss candidates. You miss good candidates because you've got so many applications to go through. And also, if you're constantly applying for positions, and we said it, if we see someone who's applying for a role like the Midlands and Manchester, it can just kind of reduce your credibility, would you say?
Yeah, I think it's that. It might sound bad for myself, but when I see one person apply to 3 different job adverts,
that completely different requirements.
They're all different requirements. One's in Leeds, one's in Manchester. You're talking 3 days in the office. I then will look again in the future, and when that name comes up again and again and again, their credibility's just gone a little bit in terms of what they're looking for. I think that an important thing for a candidate to know is what they actually want from a job. What do they want? What do they want their responsibilities to be? Do they want manual? Do they want automation? You can't just kind of go for everything. And again, that goes back to what we were just saying about there's just too many job applications.
So I think I would actually like to add in something here, where you were saying that people are applying for these jobs, and they're kind of applying for everything. I would also say that where you said that the companies are struggling to find qualified candidates, I would say that the jobs that are being advertised at the moment are very niche sometimes. It's almost like we used to have an idea what a role in testing did. Yeah. And now we seem to have companies putting out very niche requirements. And so people don't know whether or not they're qualified for that role or not. And so they just think, sod it, I'll apply for everything. And so they're just putting it forward and hoping that something on it sticks. Or they're putting in all the keywords they think you want. But actually, when you look through their roles, you can't see any evidence of them actually doing that. Yeah. So it's a lot about the way that the job descriptions are being structured for candidates. And, also, I think there are companies who want not necessarily a skill set. They are looking for you to do everything. So they're combining roles. I've recently seen a role for a data scientist quality engineer paying 60-something grand, and it was asking for absolutely everything within engineering and data science. And we said, good luck with them finding that, because unless they want, they're not saying they wanted a PhD data scientist, but there was definitely, a big number of skills there that no one person was going to have. So in that case, you would get lots of people applying to that and hoping that something they have resonates with the person reviewing CVs.
I think we spoke about this as well, Nicola, didn't we? The fact that people, even like myself and Bradley, we hold our hands up. We have job specs, like you say, that come in from our clients, and I will read them and say, you're not going to get everyone who has that. So when I look for it and then I send the candidate the job spec, I say, listen, you don't have to tick every single box. So I understand it's so hard for candidates to be like, should I be applying for this role? Because I do tick a couple, but maybe I miss a few. To take my chance, especially when people, have been looking for months and months. We all tell them, when we speak to candidates, I understand you're worried you maybe don't have this, but I've spoken to them, listen, it's fine. They're happy to accept this. So I do get it so hard. So you don't want to miss an opportunity by not applying because maybe you don't hit a couple of the boxes, tick a couple of boxes, sorry. I think with us, it is more just when you completely just so far away from it is where the huge amount of applications come
Makes
in.
a problem. I think just another thing for me as well, as you said, Nicola, I just think it needs to be an effort from both sides. So clients need to do what they can to make a job spec more black and white,
Clearer,
and candidates need to do what they can to make their CVs more black and white. Because the thing is, as recruiters, what we do, we kind of pre-screening call someone before we send them, but a client doesn't have that time. So if they aren't working with a recruiter, they'll see all these buzzwords, they'll invite someone in for an interview and they're awful. So then you go to the next. Not awful, just don't have the skills they've actually said they have. And I just think it's as simple as you shouldn't be lying on your CV.
Yeah, we find that a lot, especially in QA. It's like you mentioned, you put your skills, but what I would recommend to anyone looking for a job is in each job you've had, tell us how you've used them skills, where you've used them tools, and really demonstrate. Because if a client isn't working with recruiters like us, when we work with someone, we speak to the candidate, we get to know them, we'll phone the candidate and the client and tell them about our candidate. If you're applying your CV as a couple of skills, a few bullet points in your kind of your job, you've been at a job for 3 years and you've got a couple of bullet points, your CV will just get X and they'll move on to the next one. So it's definitely really important to highlight in every single job you've had what tools you've used, what skills you've picked up, what projects you're working on. Really go into detail on your last couple of roles of what you've been doing, and your CV will be looked at and you'll be considered a lot more than someone who hasn't put it very clear black and white on the page.
That's really interesting that you should say that, you should be quite detailed on the last 2 or 3 jobs maybe that you've had, because, in days gone by, they would say to you, if you've used skills within, if you've maybe got a skills section and you've detailed what your tech skills are there, you've obviously going to talk about some of your skills that you've used, but in each job, don't repeat. That's what, a rule that I've always been told. Don't repeat things you've done over and over, because that becomes boring and people won't look. So it's always changing, and it's always good to make sure you understand what is the style of CV or resume that you should be using now, and what is it that people expect to see. I think there's also something to be said, if you've got a lot of experience and your CV is really long, how do you think that you could possibly limit that down a bit when you maybe have lots of contract roles and you've gone permanent, for example? So how do you make your CV make sense, but without getting rid of all of the experience that you've had?
Yeah, so like I said, I've really focused on the last few roles that you've got in your more recent experience. Obviously, your profile always start with, we'd say, like a little profile summary about yourself, your experience. So if you have got 20 years of experience, obviously include that in it, include the amount of time you've been in the industry for. But what we always say when someone's a very long CV, to be honest, it's just other relevant experience from this date to this date, kind of available on request, because I've had a CV node because of how long the CV was. Like the client was like, do you know this person's CV X amount of pages long? So I would really just put other relevant experience available upon request. And the amount of times we probably get asked that extra experience, probably not.
Yeah. I think there's a level to it as well, and I think the one thing we'll say as well is, if anyone does ever want to ask us, we're happy to go through someone's CV and help them. It's not a matter of having to place them in a job. That's not really what we're here for. We're consultants and we will help people. But it's, by rule of thumb, we usually say last 7-8 years of experience, and after that, just cut it off. You don't. Realistically, do you remember what you did 9 years ago? I don't. I was, I don't know, what, 15. I don't remember. I was in school. I don't really remember a thing. It might change my life, but I don't remember it that well.
Well, yeah, profile.
Very interesting.
Profile paragraphing is very important. And if you see a job you really like, write a cover page before you've even. I know people say, it takes so much time writing cover pages for every single job, but if there's a couple of jobs that you really do like, I think it's important. Have a little template, adapt it to that job, but have a cover sheet. I read cover pages. I'll fully read them more than I'll read a full CV of why someone thinks they'd be a good fit for the job. And if I read that they understood the job and why they'd be a good fit, I will call them straight away. So I think don't waste time sending every single job, but a few that you really see and you're like, what, I think I could do this. take that 5 minutes to type up a little bit of a cover page or a paragraph of why you'd be a good fit for that job, and I think you'll see the benefits.
Okay, so I think just to go back to the beginning of this question and make sure that we cover this for people. So, you know, what do you think are the important skill sets that we need to learn now for software testing, whether that's front end tools or back end or a mixture of both, you know, full stack? What do you think people need to be looking at right now that's, you know, going to make them marketable?
I think what we hear a lot, obviously, when we speak to our clients and we take the spec calls, API testing. So I know Andy touched before when he was speaking with us that he's learning Postman. So API testing, it's so desirable now. It's what most companies we work with are asking for.
Yeah,
someone's got commercial experience for API testing. So I think if you're in a position and you're not currently working with any kind of APIs or involved in that, try and get involved in that, because it'll make you desirable if you ever decide to move job. And obviously SQL, SQL is another desirable that we hear from people. And again,
yeah, with them as well, is you don't have to do it on the job to have that on your CV. Again, there's LinkedIn qualifications, there's Udemy courses, there's YouTube videos, the amount of free resources out there that you can go and use yourself in your spare time, at lunch, do it whenever you have that time. You can put that, because now that LinkedIn gives you certifications, you can still put that in your CV. And it, for us as well, it shows that you're making an effort towards testing, and especially for our clients, it shows that you actually care and that you do want to learn, you do want to upskill, you do want to improve yourself, and that's someone that they're going to hire. I think a lot of it nowadays as well, in terms of experience, is personality matters. You need to care. You're not just there to do a job, go home, that's it. You need to actually have kind of a passion for testing. I think that's something we see as well.
Yeah,
a passion for testing is what you need.
Yeah, to have that show demonstrate that passion, like people like obviously Andy getting involved in things like this, yourself, Nicola, is having that passion for testing, that proactiveness. Sadly, the amount of kind of clients who want, it's hard to put it in words, but they have a lot of, you know, people in the QA who maybe get passed down something, do the job and send it back. They want someone to get involved in that, be part of the team. Obviously, we talk about agile, getting involved in the team, not just, you know, like I said, being passed something, test it, send it back. It's just about that's the proactiveness, which is hard to get across on a CV, I understand. So that's when the conversations in person, your personality comes across. And I think that obviously the other skill, which everyone's probably talking about at the moment, is automation, which everyone probably hears.
Wants to go into or is in.
Because there's so many jobs wanting automation, so little candidates. Most candidates who've got experience of automation are getting jobs within a week, 2 weeks. And it's, again, we understand with SQL, API, automation, if your company doesn't offer you that progression to move into that, it is really hard. But like Bradley said, just showing a willingness to learn outside of work could go a long way. But definitely automation is what we've seen a need for, which I'm sure you've seen as well, Nicola. More recently, since I joined over the past 2 years, automation, even people who don't have any automation frameworks in place. We want people with automation experience. Yeah. And like you said, they start, and these automation testers are not doing anything for 6 to 12 months. They're not working automation. So I think there's a lot of companies, they're hearing everyone's hiring automation. We need to get someone in with automation. But what are you actually going to do with that automation tester? It's the irony.
I do just a really, really quick point from myself as well. And if there is anyone listening that is kind of a junior or wanting to get into software testing, do your ISTQB or ISEB, whatever you want.
Do people still hold that with some regard, because, you know, that's a really contentious subject in the community, right?
So in terms of clients, whether or not it holds the same worth as it used to, I don't know. But in terms of clients, I have CVs no'd still because they don't have that, or that's or at least relevant experience. So, for example, a computer science degree. But if you don't have any prior education, that's your kind of starting point. Because the second they see that on your CV, again, willingness to learn.
I think it's more, like Brad said, it's more for junior, not for someone like, you know, who's got a few years experience. It is just, like you said, for them junior people. To show a bit of relevance on your CV of why you're looking to get into a testing career. So we're heading back, but sometimes even not as common with some, you know, it's a bit more of an experienced tester.
Yeah,
I think that
no,
more about the
totally.
ICQB. It is
Yeah.
more for them junior people,
roles.
but you do still get the people who put it on the job, you know, the job spec as a you know, requirement.
I just find it interesting because from a DE&I perspective, it can be seen as you know, kind of been not elitist, but something along those lines, basically only wanting people with degrees. It can cut out whole swathes of, you know, society from applying for roles. Not everybody gets the chance to go to university. It costs £9,000 a year now, or, you know, potentially doesn't have a company that's willing to pay for them to do ISTQB, so they'd have to pay that for themselves. We have you know, people who don't have that ability to do those things. And interestingly, from a contractor point of view, when I contracted for 12 years in consultancy, it was actually something that most contractors frowned upon. And I know there are conversations now in the community where it's very polarizing. If you mention ISTQB or ISED, it's very polarizing, and you get a lot of people who say, I'm not interested in that. I don't subscribe, you know, to that kind of idea about people being certified, because anyone could potentially sit a certificate and then come and apply for a job. That doesn't mean that they can actually test. So a mixture of the two is actually the better way to go about it. But I get what you're saying about newer people and then being able to see whether or not they've got a hunger for testing.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's more about the junior people. It's something that we see as just a proactive thing. That if you've done the ISTQB, they get the basics. I mean, we try. I mean, I tried to get my ISTQB, and I'm not an exams academic person. I didn't go to uni either, so I do get your point, Nicola, that it isn't for everyone, and you can't be not looked at as a good candidate if you don't have that
Yeah, and I think you might get, you know, if you got applications from people who didn't have the degree, I think if that I know that a lot of employers use that as the basis to cut people out of the process, when actually somebody could have gone to university years ago, so their degree doesn't actually do anything for them in their everyday life, and certainly not for their job. So, you know, cutting people out of the process who potentially don't have that background can actually be detrimental, because you're not allowing that diversity within your job process, and that's bad at the end of the day. So a lot of bigger companies have actually stopped asking for degrees even on their, like, I think it's PwC or one of the you know, the big consultancies. They have stopped doing it, and other companies have followed suit, because it's actually seen as a way to block people from getting into tech as well, which is important.
Well, we had a company very strict on that people had to have degrees, and they were declining people with 15 years experience because they didn't have a degree, and we
stopped working.
Yeah, we just was like, no, do you know what, we're washing our hands clear of this one, because it's, like I said, it doesn't matter when they've got that relevant experience behind them. But yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on to new questions because we've got some more. Are there any new software testing job roles emerging? And if so, what skills are required for these positions? So, I said, the mixture of skill sets that we're seeing. Have you seen newer ones coming up?
So it's for me, it's a yes and no. I mean,
a bit of a tricky one.
Yeah. I'd say. You look at some of the things I've got at the moment. So I've got a test and support analyst, but then when you do look at the specification, it is a tester. They just want you to deal with a few tickets. But again, I think the big problem is there's way too many job titles in the industry. There's too many. Like, you can have a QA engineer do about 6 different things in 6 different jobs, and it's not the way for it to be. I don't personally think that there's kind of new roles. I think there's more niche roles.
The niche now. So your mobile application, your mobile testers is a new role that we've seen over the past few years. Someone who's focused on that mobile testing, performance testing as well. There's a very, very small amount of people who do performance testing, but that's a niche, and I've had a few roles over I mean, there's not a huge amount, but I've had a few roles where they were looking for someone who solely focuses on that performance testing. But other than that, I would say it's a hard one for us to answer, because the majority of the roles that we've got in recently have been
Test
like I said, we're going off 2 years of experience, and we haven't seen much of a change. We've got the odd niche role, like performance testing, like I said, mobile app testing, but other than that, we tend to see the specs are the same, to be honest. So we didn't have too much to say about this one, Nicola, to be honest. I don't know what your thoughts are, so I presume you look at the
yeah,
jobs.
no, it's like I was saying earlier, like that really niche one for the data
Yeah.
scientist quality engineer. That's like, we laughed at that when my friend and I saw it. But, you know, it's actually, you know, if that was something that got filled, I'm sure that, you know, jobs like that will catch on. So I actually think that I don't like the idea of people putting themselves into a box. And I know that Agile requires everybody to be like the Borg, right? And have, you know, same skill sets as your engineers, as every, you know, I feel like tech is a very creative area. And at the end of the day, if you feel like and you could pick up niche skills that are marketable, whether that's in data, whether that's in product management, whether it's in delivery and operations or something else, you don't necessarily need to be coding, and you don't necessarily need to, you know, merge into the hive and, you know, become, you know, a full-on estet or engineer. You don't have to do that. There are other options, because not everybody's I think there's a kind of like different mindsets. I don't think everybody's pushed towards that direction or wanting to go towards that direction, but they're lost because they're not seeing roles that are suitable for them. I've got a mentee that's done 2 or 3 different boot camps, and actually it's the one that she thought would give her the least amount of chances to get a job that's potentially going to get her a new job, because she's got a couple of interviews coming up for it. And it means that she'll actually be able to mix all of her different skill sets together, her different tech skill sets together. And she just never thought that that was going to be the case. But it's working for her. So I think having a diverse skill set is really important, because the market is being as it is. You could get up tomorrow and all the jobs that you would normally go for are gone, which we'll come on to that in a minute. But yeah, it's one of those things at the moment that I think just diversifying your skill set is really important. I used to think, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. But actually now I think you might have to have a variety of skills, because you don't know what the market's going to do tomorrow. And the current situation is going to take a while to settle down, I think. Okay, I'll go on to the next question. Are software testing salaries increasing or decreasing? And what factors are influencing these trends?
So I joined Oscar literally after pandemic, most people still working from home, and the market was crazy. For some reason, everybody was hiring. Salaries shot up. I think even when you joined we noticed the salaries had gone up. People were genuinely leaving the current places where they were happy just for salary increases, because they knew they could get 10, 15K. And I got people 15K salary increases in that market because they knew that they could. So that was great. You know, we're going back to 2022, maybe start to the middle. Things are going back down now. I think the market's settling. Clients were paying these, you know, they knew they were overpaying for people, you know, back a year ago, but they had to because they needed these people. They realised now the market's settled and the salaries have gone down. So I think we know, obviously we don't know the exact stats, so we had a little look and what you found that.
It was, so just for your average QA analyst role, we're not talking about London salaries here, because they do really change the data. But from this time last year, it is a 15% decrease just for your average QA analyst, that is. And there is a website, if you want to go and look, you can go look at all the job titles on there. It's called IT Jobs Watch. It's literally got everything on there. You can search whatever job title it is that you want, and it will tell you the change within the last 6 months, 12 months. You can go further back than that as well. But just overall, though, it's kind of balanced out. The salaries have still increased overall from 2021, but they've just decreased in 2022 because COVID just made the world crazy.
I don't think it's a negative thing that things are decreasing. I think things are maybe just going back to the norm. us recruiters were loving life, you know, last year. Everyone was hiring, everyone wanted a new job. Our life was so easy. And what we've seen now, to be honest, is more of the market is settling back down again.
The other website you can go to is levels.fyi. Nice URL. Someone mentioned it last week actually on another panel that I was on, a women's returners conference, so they mentioned that one. So yeah, that's another one that you can go to and find out. I'm not sure if it's got any UK numbers, but it's definitely got US ones from what I can see.
I think it's important to look at before you go for a job. You've got to know what the market value is and what your value is. What do you value yourself at? We ask people every single day, what salary are you looking for? And
we don't care too much about what you're on now. It's, you know, where are you at in the market? And if someone's underpaid, we will say to them, listen, you're really underpaid. You know, you deserve this, or vice versa. I mean, we have people that now took a new job last year, looking for a new job again, and we're like, you're 10 grand above what you know what the market average is now, and that's why some people are struggling, because they're not getting the same salaries, they're not getting an increase. If you want a new job, a lot of people having to take that decrease, and that's what we're finding. So you need to be open to taking that decrease and seeing, obviously, in the long run it will get back up there, but the salaries just went mad last year.
I think it's just because of the cost of living crisis as well for a lot of people. Having to take that cut is a massive hit at the moment.
Of course.
I know it's easy to say take the cut, no, and I do understand that, but I think people need to be look at what's going on, look at the salaries out there, and there has been a change. We were I was shocked at the salaries I was placing people at last year, because it just wasn't what we were used to. And like I said, we've seen it drop back down now to to
the norm. It's not lower than it should be. It's not higher than it should be. It's still higher than 2021. So that means it's still,
we're going in the right direction. It's just like a little bit of a dip.
Okay, I've got one more question on our list, and I think we're pretty much to time. Where have all the senior level roles gone?
Who knows? Go on.
Again, these aren't jobs that we get a lot. You know, I probably recruited for one or two head of QA roles in my years, maybe a few more, obviously, test manager jobs. But what we've realised, and we're working with clients that I maybe placed in positions that have now changed, it's just the kind of the engineering manager role, I'd say. Software development manager, taking over that role that was a head of QA, was a test manager. And what we're seeing more is that the highest person at a company in the QA is being the senior or the lead. But they do take on the responsibilities that what you would expect of a QA manager. So making the decisions, speaking to stakeholders, you know, allowing the releases. I don't know, obviously, everything that you guys do, but
I think there's a duty though here, because what's happening is careers are not being managed properly. People are then pushed out into market, whether through being made redundant or whatever, and they don't have any idea what they're going to do next, because what they would have expected to be able to apply for, that job doesn't exist anymore. And like I said, it's trying to push people down this route of becoming engineering, like proper developers or engineers, whatever you call the role, when that is not their skill set. It isn't what they feel comfortable doing. And so they're left with only going into engineering roles and becoming one of the engineering team, essentially a bigger fish in a pond. I'm sorry, a small fish in a big pond, or you know, maybe having to retrain and start from scratch when you've got years of experience behind you, which we would never ask engineers to do that. We would never ask engineering to do that. In fact, one of the speakers on this lunchtime LinkedIn Live last week said they would never join a company where engineering was the route for quality. So if the quality team sits under engineering, they wouldn't join that company, because they know that they don't intend to take quality seriously or to support the team. They just want them to become part of engineering, essentially. And the only route up to, say, leadership or senior positions is via engineering management, and, you know, through that CTO role. When, you know, quality should actually be able to go up into leadership and have a seat at the table, because it's very important for a company to ensure quality across the board. So, it's something that we should think about. Maybe if you want to be a head of quality, you also need to make sure you have skills like standards and, making sure that you know about ISO standards and other standards to make sure that you're not just looking after software quality, but you're also looking after things like the business processes, etc., and auditing. So that's something to think about.
The other little thing I was actually going to say on this as well, it comes down to, again, job titles, because I've had lead QA roles that you look at it, the salary is that of a test manager, the responsibilities is that of a test manager, but the title isn't. And what we see with a lot of clients as well, and I don't know whether it's easy for us because we are recruiters, we speak to clients every day. If you're not happy with the job title that you have, it is changeable. It's just a words on paper. It is a changeable job title. It doesn't, you don't have to stick to that. And we have had job titles change. Don't get me wrong. You can't change it to whatever you want, but within reason, it is doable.
It is hard though. I mean, I placed a test manager at a company, that he was then made redundant a few weeks later. And obviously I felt terrible about it. And me and Bradley worked together just to try and get him a new job. So helping him, taking him to market with other clients that we previously worked with. And we have to admit, we struggled. We probably worked for a couple of months and we couldn't find him another job. So with this whole where the job's gone, we ourselves, we don't know. And we try to help people at them senior levels get them jobs. It's just so much harder.
It's a longer process.
And I understand what you're saying, that that them engineering managers and the software dev managers looking after the QA, it's only going to affect the QA people, because no one wants the code going out and loads of bugs coming back and it being the responsibility of the people in software. So we do understand, and we speak to a lot of people who have the same concerns as a lot of people out there.
I think it depends on who you work for at the end of the day and what their views are on quality and whether or not they give quality people a voice and they support them. If you're in that kind of company, moving into a more engineering kind of title, if you like, is fine. But where you've got, obviously now I've spoken to agents who've said, oh, maybe people should think about moving into engineering manager roles. Well, if you're not technical enough or deemed technical enough by a company, or some engineering manager roles are managing people or mentorship or coaching people, and other ones are very technical and want you to be all things that they need across their frameworks, and not managing people at all, essentially. So it's really hard for people who come into a senior test role, like a test manager. Even test leads are disappearing, actually, but even test manager or head of, and thinking, what the hell am I going to do next? Because I'm going to have to make a decision about whether or not I've got the skills to move forward. Very strange time right now.
Sorry to cut in. I'm just aware of the time, and we've had quite a few questions in the chat, some of which have been answered already, but there was just one more I wanted to finish on in the last couple of minutes, if that's okay. So at the beginning, Imogen, you talked about how people had been applying for roles based in one city and they lived in another and couldn't commute. So what do you see as being the trend with hybrid and remote working, particularly in the tech and testing sectors? Are roles still remote and hybrid, or is that changing?
It's definitely changing. So a lot of them were very remote. We've now seen more of a trend going back to hybrid working patterns. So most of, I'd say 90% of the roles we have at the moment are hybrid. So we don't really work any roles that are full 5 days in the office. Of course, they are out there, but most of our roles are hybrid. But with that, I would also say that may not reflect the market. Clients may come to us and help, want our help with the hybrid roles, because it is a bit harder to find candidates who are in this, the certain geography for that position. So that might not reflect the market. There might still be a lot of remote roles out there. We just we work with a lot of clients who want people office based, because it probably is a bit harder to recruit for. So we see more hybrid working from office, positions.
I echo that. That's it's as simple as that. For us, it's usually the maximum you'll probably see is 2 days a week, 3 days a week. That's kind of the highest. Again, some companies are higher, but that's kind of their choice.
But they're the ones that are struggling maybe to get people in the office. When you're 4 or 5 days a week in the office, yeah, people are struggling to find people who will do that.
But there are definitely companies that have gone from remote to 2-3 days a week in the office, and that's a lot of the candidates that I speak to, because they leave their role.
Okay, that's really interesting to know. And just one final point from both of you, if you could give one piece of advice to a tester or a QA person looking for a new role, what would it be?
I would say don't give up. You know, we spoke to people who had been on the job market for a couple of months, and I know it can be draining, you know, going to interviews, getting the rejections, getting ignored by recruiters or companies that you apply for. But really don't give up, because that right job will come along for you. And you know, there's people who have been looking for, like we said, people we've helped who we thought, you know, we couldn't find a job for, and they found something. So really don't give up. And secondly, I know it's biased, but I would definitely speak to a recruiter. I speak to a recruiter, and I would be obviously completely honest with us, and anyone can reach out to us. We're always happy to help. But the thing working with a recruiter is a lot of companies don't advertise their own roles. So all the jobs that you see on Indeed and Glassdoor, they're not all the companies that are hiring. So a lot of clients just want us to advertise their jobs for them. So I'll definitely speak to a recruiter, get them to review your CV. If they've got any feedback, I mean that was 2 bits of advice, but yeah, main thing, don't give up, keep going with your job search.
I'll keep mine as short as possible, and it's going to be as simple as go to tech events and network where you can possible, because that's where you're going to meet the people who hire for the roles. That's where you're going to meet the people who are in roles that can help you. And we do a lot of them here, and the people I speak to, they're amazing. And I think that's a really big one. Go to tech events and socialize and network.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Imogen and Bradley. It's been wonderful to hear from you and sharing your advice with everybody. We really appreciate your time. And feeding on from Imogen's topic of not giving up, that's quite a nice segue into our next speaker for the evening, Andy Shaw, who is going to be talking to us about mental health and resilience. So, Andy, I will hand over to you.
Thank you. So I'll share the screen with everybody. So just going to share my screen. So just bear with me. So hang on a minute. It says disabled screen sharing.
Let me have a look. I cannot modify the sharing options because they are locked by an admin.
No worries then. Shall I send the slides over to yourself, or
yeah, if you can send them over to me, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just do that now. So while I'm doing that, I'll just say a little bit about myself. So I'm Andy Shaw. I've been testing now for nine and a half years. It'll be 10 towards the end. It'll be 10 towards the end of this year. And I developed recruitment testing because I worked in different areas of the software development lifecycle, and following a redundancy from Hewlett Packard, I discovered that I actually liked testing more than ever. I initially wanted to be a software developer, but realised that I struggled with a lot of the. I just found that role quite tricky in software support. I just found that it was a role which I quickly began to dislike with a vengeance. So I did a number of roles as well, but just found that my heart just wasn't in it, and I just want to sort of follow my life where I can sort of put my heart into it and just throw myself into a role. So mental health as well is another area which I'm really passionate about as well, and I've done some talks this year and last year on mental health, and have started focusing on doing talks on mental health in the tech industry as well as software testing as well. So they're going to be the main. So this year I'm going to do some more talks, but it's mainly going to be focused around around mental health. So just sending it over to you now, Beth. But I could start anyway. So
I'll let you know when I've got them, Andy. I'll start sharing them as soon as I do.
Okay, no problem. So, firstly, mental health. I've done some research as well on mental health and software testing as well, and some of it from my own experience and some what other experiences I've also seen from other people as well. So, with mental health, there are a number of issues which I found with mental health as well, and some concerns which I'm just going to go through now. So when you have a project that you've been assigned on as well, sometimes it can be deadlines and time pressures to get a good amount of testing coverage covered within a short amount of time as well. And sometimes there can be some really, really unrealistic and high expectations. For example, a whole sort of software system needs to be tested within a week, or within a few days as well, because it's going to get released at very, very short notice, and that can cause that, and that has caused concerns as well. Also, as well, when testers are needed to speak to developers about some of the software that's been changed, especially if there's been some scope creep, sometimes the developers can be quite busy as well, understandably, because their roles are also quite stressful. So any developers on the call, this is not a dig at all. I fully understand that you're busy as well. So the developers can be busy as well as other people in the business as well. I've also seen in other areas of software testing, there has been some sort of bullying towards testers as well, where if things may have been missed or sort of not sort of completed in a specific time, sometimes the testers can get some sort of issues, some sort of problems with other people, sort of criticizing them and questioning their role and what they're doing as well, which I think is a concern and has caused anxiety among the testing community. Also, as well, in a lot of organisations, you'll have a larger amount of developers than testers. So you'll have sort of like a high developer to tester ratio. Some places you'll have a 4-to-1 sort of tester rate, 4 developers to 1 tester ratio. Other places it can be quite higher than that. The ideal sort of developer to tester ratio, I believe, would be 2-to-1, two developers to 1 tester as well, so that we can work with each other, we can bounce ideas off each other as well, and the testers aren't completing significantly higher workloads than the developers when they've been assigned different projects as well. Also, as well, when there are redundancies within organisations, sometimes it's the testers that will be considered first for redundancy, and that way, that gives anxieties as to how testers are going to, if the testers need to find another role, how they're going to manage and budget, especially now in this cost of living crisis that is happening. But another issue as well is when things go wrong, usually the finger of blame is pointed at the testers as well. Testers will be asked, why didn't you test this, or how come this area wasn't tested as well? And sometimes there isn't always time to test everything that you want to test, and you're testing against some really, really unrealistic expectations. Can you see the slides now? Oops.
Yeah, I'm sharing them. Are you able to see them?
Yeah, I can see him now. Yeah, I can see him now. Yeah,
Okay,
I can
great.
see him now. Yeah. So yeah. So next slide, please. So I've had experience of mental health and testing as well, where I've experienced anxiety within some of the roles which I've undertaken as well, and I've had pressures in which I've needed to where I've needed to test a specific piece of software or specific systems within a very, very short time period as well, sometimes at very, very, very short notice. One experience I had was I was having to test a whole sort of web-based system plus a mobile system to within 4 days as well. It was a lot of pressure, and it was quite tricky to do, but somehow I managed to do that, and I managed to actually get it all completed just before the software was due to be deployed as well. The next point, please. Also, with lockdown as well, that had an impact on my mental health as well. When the whole country was being announced that there was going to be a lockdown because of COVID. Initially, it was a complete novelty, not having to commute to the office, not having to travel half an hour to the place I worked as well, and just sort of working from home as well, and doing things like a Joe Wicks workout before starting work each morning as well. That was good. That was good to start off with, but by January 2021, a couple of years ago, when I started working weekends as well to get some for a release as well, and the fact that I hadn't seen many friends or family for a considerable amount of time as well, I started to have mental health problems and anxieties as well, feeling quite low for quite long periods of time as well, and wondering if this lockdown was ever going to end as well. Next point, please. Also as well, I've been in a place where there were redundancies being announced as well, and the pool of redundancies were people who were testers plus another department as well, with a plan to merge the two departments together and reduce the headcount by a specific number as well. That also caused me anxieties as well, because I was wondering how would I be able to make ends meet? How would I be able to find another job if I was actually made redundant? So I just went into overdrive, just trying to look for other roles as well, whilst trying to sort of balance the work whilst I was still employed as well. And morale was sort of was very low as well, and it had a knock-on effect on me, where I just had I needed time to sort of concentrate on things, and sometimes the concentration wasn't that great, and as well I couldn't switch off as easily as I would do from time to time after finishing work for the day as well. And another thing which I've had as well in the past, and still sometimes get now, is imposter syndrome as well, where I'm actually thinking, so next point, please. So I'm actually sort of thinking, am I actually a good tester or not? I mean, you've got a lot of good testers on this call as well, and some really great names of the testing industry as well, like you, Beth, you, Nicola, who are really good as well. Deborah Reed, who's also really good. Adi Stokes, who is I think is really good at what he does as well. Plus other people like Adam Leon Smith as well, and Jonathan Wright, who are really credible testers, and people who I can learn a lot from them as well. And I think of a lot of the time, I'm nowhere near as good as all of them, and I've just sort of, and it sort of questioned, am I actually sort of going in the right direction of my career? I'm actually sort of a good enough tester. Should I be learning more? Should I be learning more areas than I do now as well? So next slide. So managing mental health as a tester. So first one, please. So I've started managing my mental health as a tester following lockdown as well. So I'll sort of manage my time scales and workloads, and I'll be honest and realistic as possible as what I can achieve within certain timeframes as well and workloads. I once was overwhelmed with a lot of work which I was doing at a previous place. So I reached out to a senior colleague as well, just to explain that the amount of work I was doing was overwhelming. And from that as well, they reassured me as well, and told me that I was doing the best that I can as well. And with that, it helped to reduce the workload for work as well, so it was a more manageable workload as well. So make sure that being honest and realistic about timescales, and making sure your workloads are manageable as well, that you're not taking on too much than what you can do at a specific point of time. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. Next point, please. Also as well, checking in as well. So a number of places where I've worked, I've had one-to-one meetings as well. I've checked in with managers about how I'm doing with work, what work I'm actually doing, and sort of anything they can do to sort of help make the workload more manageable, and anything I can learn to make myself be a better employee and a better tester as well. So checking in is also good as well. I've also started checking in with other colleagues as well at workplaces, both past and present, to ask how they are. Sometimes having a 5-minute chat as well, and going through any questions which I've got as well. And it's a good way of speaking to other people, actually sort of managing your well-being as well, because communication is very important. Next slide, please. Also as well, making sure that you have a work-life balance as well, and setting boundaries. I'll work as hard as I can, and I'll give every role which I've done and still do now the best that I can possibly do as well. However, I will sort of set work-life boundaries as well. So after 8 p.m, I won't check the email or even go on social media. Sometimes at that time, I'll even close the laptop as well and do something different as well, so that I can actually switch off for an evening as well. And making sure that you have things to do outside of work and outside of testing. Ironically, I love software testing, and I really like networking as well with everybody and learning from people as well, but making sure that I have other things in my life which I do enjoy as well, which are doing outside of those areas as well, which I can also focus on. That also helps me to relax and recharge as well. Next slide, please. So ways to improve mental health as a tester. So I've got ways of how I improve my mental health and anxiety. So I'll take things a day at a time as well. I'll look at what I've done, what I need to do for the next day, and I'll make a few notes of what I need to go through. So for example, I'll need to I need to test a few things tomorrow as well, plus also find some time to upskill myself during the day. So I'll put them in my diary as well, just so that it gives me a focus as well, and that sort of helps you to sort of focus on what I need to do, and helps to reduce my anxiety as well. Next point, please. Also as well, a great way of managing mental health as a tester is setting boundaries as well. So I've mentioned previously that I'll sort of, after a certain point of a day, I'll sort of switch off the laptop stop checking emails after 8 p.m, but also when I'm on holidays as well, unless it's really necessary, I'll make sure as well that I don't check emails as well, both sort of work related and personal emails as well. So it gives me a break as well, especially if I'm going somewhere really nice. I mean, last year I went to Magwunpur for a few days, didn't check the emails, the network bandwidth was pretty low there anyway, but it was a good way for me to unwind, recharge my batteries, and I felt refreshed as well towards the end of a holiday. Next point, please. Food and exercise as well. So making sure that you eat a decent diet as well. So eating vegetables, fruits, making sure that you have sort of healthy meals and stuff which you could for example, which you can cook yourself rather than picking up something from a fast food place or a fast food restaurant, which, okay, from time to time is not a bad thing, but if you do it too often, it can affect not just your physical health but also your mental health as well. I'll make sure that I also do exercise as well, because exercise releases the endorphins, which helps reduce stress and anxiety. I'll go walking during lunchtime from time to time. When I was on the call to you, Beth, as well, I was just on a walk as well early on today. So I was on and a few people from SIGiST. I was actually on a walking as well. That helps me. I also practice martial arts as well, which is different from testing as well, but that also helps me to reset and refocus as well. Next point, please. I also do writing as well, so I write sort of little sort of short stories, or just write anything random as well, and that's a way to sort of get your thoughts out on paper, and it helps you focus on something as well. Next point, please. Also as well, being creative. So also as a tester, I'll be creative with how I test as well. For example, I'm an advocate of exploratory testing. I also apply that same principle outside of work as well. So I also like baking in my spare time as well. I've promised a number of people cakes, and I promise to those people, I will get there at some point as well. But when I do sort of cooking or baking or forever, I'll be creative with what I'll do with it as well. I'll follow a recipe, but I'll sort of make a few tweaks as well to make it sort of unique. Next point, please. So next point, please. Also as well, practicing mindfulness as well. So I've started practicing that as well. I'll sort of focus on my breath, breathing in for the count of 4, breathing out for count of 4 as well. I've also started doing a few things myself as well, which is each day I'll sort of say to myself 5 things which I'm really grateful for. And I'll also write, which I actually learned from the last mental health talk, which I did from one of the people as well. Actually write a few successes of what you've achieved each week as well in a diary as well, and refer to that when I've been to another day. I've gone through another day and things haven't gone quite right, and that sort of helps put things into perspective. That we're all really good testers. We're all got our own sort of strengths and areas to improve on as well, but making sure that we're not comparing ourselves with each other, because we're all unique and we actually shine in different areas. Also, if you need to, please reach out. If you need to, don't pretend you're the dog in a burning house shouting, "I'm fine, I'm fine." Some of you have probably seen the car. It's a little sort of cartoon image as well, but be honest about how you feel. If you feel overwhelmed, or even if you just need to speak to a colleague or somebody, or a manager or somebody, or a friend or a family member, please reach out and please be honest. Don't bottle it up. Last point, please. And as well, be honest about your mental health. Be honest. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't try and push all your feelings down, because at the end of the day, if at the end of the day you do matter, you've got people who will help you as well, or who can give advice as well. And I'll mention some of the organisations later on during the talk. Next slide, please. So yeah, next slide. So a number of organisations which I've read about, which I've been in as well, have got the mental health first aids and champions. So there's some organisations which offer mental health first aid training, like NHFA, which train people within organisations to spot the signs of people struggling with mental health, making sure that they're asking if they're okay, and as well sort of checking in on them as well, and noticing the signs that they can point the people in the right direction, and where they can get help as well if they're struggling as well. A number of workplaces have events on mental health as well, to do with the Stress Awareness Week, where people can learn about how to manage the stress better as well, and making sure that they engage with other people as well, and doing things and doing fun activities, for example, identifying what songs they can dance to, which are good, uplifting as well as making sure that you have time away from emails as well, so that people can fully recharge as well. I've also organised mental health events as well before within workplaces. One of them was an online bake-off as well during a pandemic as well, where myself and some colleagues, some of which are in the UK, others were in the Netherlands, decided to bake a basic recipe, for example, brownies. And it was nice as well, because while it was all baking, everybody was chatting to one another, everybody was discussing their holiday plans, everybody was laughing, everybody was enjoying it as well. And it makes things like the Great British Bake Off look sort of quite small in comparison, really, because there you had everybody sort of chatting and everybody making it a great event and booking in. I also organised a training course at a previous place of employment as well, to help people manage their mental health as well, to manage their mental health, and that involved looking at how people can manage their mental health, different types of mental health issues that people can face as well, and what people can do to manage it, and what organisations can support them as well if they need help as well. Also, many organisations will have one-to-one sessions where they can check in with the managers. Check in with the managers and make sure that everybody, make sure that the colleagues are okay, that they're not too overloaded, and that they're managing the mental health. They're managing the mental health better as well. So, a number of organisations as well, which can help if you're finding things difficult, or if somebody you know is finding difficult. So hello.
Hello.
Oh yeah, there was but the Samaritans are an organisation, and they're there for anyone 24/7 as well. So and they'll listen for as little or as long as you need, and they can be contacted on 116 123, or you can email joe@vismountains.org as well. Also, the campaign against living miserably has a really good website with different issues surrounding mental health, which anyone can look at as well. And this organisation is the president of a charity is the rapper Professor Green as well, because who is also very passionate about mental health awareness as well. So I'd just like to say thank you for everybody for coming to listen to the talk as well, and I'm actually making progress towards improving mental health awareness within the testing community as well as the tech community as well. I'm also planning a series of talks as well to help raise mental health awareness, which I'm going to be doing around the UK, not just on testing, but also in other areas of IT as well. And I'm planning a few events as well. So anybody who would like to speak to me about that, I'm more than happy to speak to you after this event. And thank you everyone for listening. And has anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Andy. Sorry for my internet dropping out partway through your presentation. I did see one question in the chat. You spoke about managing mental health in general, which was brilliant. Somebody asked, how would you deal with anxiety in particular?
Good question. So a few ways which I've managed anxiety. So what I've done is I'll write a success every week. I'll write sort of like a success list of things I've accomplished during the week as well, and refer to that when I refer to that as well when I need to help me keep things in perspective. I also if there's a situation, I also sort of try and do my best to reframe the situation as well. So if something seems quite stressful, I'll sort of I'll sort of reframe it to sort of say it's not as bad as what I think as well. Sometimes if I've had a bad day, or if things have been overwhelming, I'll take a step back. I'll sort of take another look at the problem. Sometimes I go for a short walk as well to help clear my head as well. But also look at the situation and sort of reframe it as well, to sort of think, how can I look at this in a different way as well, so that the situation's not too overwhelming. It's not too overwhelming as well. So that's another thing. I also think as well, making sure as well that where possible as well, having a work life balance as well, where you can actually sort of take a break from what you're doing as well and come back to something later on as well, where possible as well. That's what I'll do. Sometimes if I can't think of something one day, I'll leave it until later on in the day or this afternoon if I can anyway, and at least it gives you more time. It gives you more time, sort of more time. It'll give you more time to sort of walk away and sort of think of a solution, and then go back to a problem. Does that help answer your question?
I would think so.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions for Andy? I will take that as a no. If you do have any more questions for anyone, feel free to get in touch with SIGiST, or I'm sure Andy, if you wanted to put your LinkedIn in the chat or something so people could reach out to you.
Yeah, I'll do that. So I'll put my LinkedIn. I'll just get my LinkedIn. I'll just put my LinkedIn in there in the chat now.
Fantastic. And we will hand over now back to Nicola just to give us some closing remarks.
Are we not doing breakout rooms for Andy?
I'm still doing breakout
Yeah, I
rooms,
was following the agenda that was on the thing which said closing remarks and then breakout rooms.
Okay, well, just want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to attend. I hope that you've gained some insights into the madness that is the current testing industry. I hope that you've got some insights that you can take away and use. Obviously Andy's talked about reaching out to him, and I'm sure he's about to add his details into the chat. Yeah. But I'll also add my details on LinkedIn if you don't already follow me. Also make sure that you follow or connect with Beth as well. And we are on LinkedIn quite actively now that Beth is in charge of it. So we've got two places on LinkedIn that you can find us. We've got the members page, which obviously if you're a member of BCS and you're part of SIGiST, you will know about our group page, but we've got a public page as well that you can follow and keep up with all of the events and things that we're planning. And we'll be posting about speakers for the main conference as well soon. So yeah, thank you so much for attending, and I'm going to hand back to Andy now. He's going to do another activity before you all leave. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm just getting LinkedIn up at the moment, but while I'm doing that, my next activity now. So how many are there? So there's 12 of us. So I'm thinking now if we have a breakout session for between 5 to 10 minutes, and just in sort of three groups of 4, so, and we can discuss and we can sort of have a chat about how we can manage mental health within mental health, as well as testers, as well as our organizations as well. So I'm actually doing this as well, so I can learn from all of you as well as you learning from myself as well. So Beth, are you in charge of putting people in of breakout rooms at all?
Yes, I will be. I'm just quickly posting some links to sites in the chat because I don't know if they'll stay once we've done breakout rooms. So in the chat there, we've got the LinkedIn group for BCS SIGiST, which you're welcome to join. And then the second link is our public LinkedIn page, as Nicola mentioned. We'll be posting a bunch of stuff to do with our upcoming conference in there. I'll just quickly let Andy and Nicola put their links in case you want to follow us. We're very happy to chat about all things testing and software and quality, and we will also be posting on our own channels about upcoming events that we're doing as well. Yeah, if you'd like to stay involved with those. I'm just putting my link profile in now. So fantastic. And then I will open the breakout rooms in just 1 second. Yeah, so. And did you want people to come back in here afterwards, or are people free to leave when they're done? Yeah,
so I think I'm happy to come back afterwards, but if people want to leave afterwards as well, that's also fine as well.
Okay, well, we'll say for those of you that would like to come back, we'll close the rooms at past to come back in. Likewise, if you've got other things to do, then that's absolutely fine. Right, are we ready to go? I think I'm ready to go.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Everybody for attending. That's the end of the event. You can drop off whenever you want to.